look how massive this column is, or this pillar.
It's like anything. If it is there long enough, it becomes iconic.
Tony, I see that that's like two different types of material there. Did they run out of stone or something? Hey y'all, what's going on? Today I'm in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and we're going to be taking a look around at the mall area here. As you can tell behind me, the Lincoln Memorial. Anyway, as you can tell right now, they're doing some renovations at it. So, but I think you could still enter. It looks like a walkway is still available. And we're going to go check the memorials out, check out the outside of the Washington Monument. Anyway, without further ado, let's go do. As you're walking up through here, man, this stairs, usually all those stairs are open too, but right now they've just got this area where you could go up here. But the thing is massive, man. And it's amazing that they got all the states on here. And there's the state, well, can't really tell here, that South Carolina is on there, that I reside. I haven't found North Carolina yet, but we'll check it out later. I think I counted 41 steps to going up here. And here it is. In this temple, as in the hearts of the people for whom he saved the Union, the memory of Abraham Lincoln is enshrined forever. Please respect the memorial and help preserve the atmosphere of calm, tranquility, and reverence. Consequently, no demonstrations allowed. And here's one of his speeches. Here's another one that starts the 407 years ago. And here's one of the most iconic views you could see looking across the mall here at the Washington Monument. Very beautiful here this morning. Now, look how massive this column is, or this pillar. Check it out. Right to the left of the monument there, you could see the Capitol, and then the Library of Congress is to the right of that. And right in front of the Library of Congress, you could see the Smithsonian Castle. One fact that's interesting to note is Lincoln always had a lot of assassination attempts on him. So when he'd come to Washington, he'd have to, sometimes one time he was in disguise on a train. And believe it or not, well, I know you can believe it, right across the border here is Virginia. So that was the southern states, and right here was the border of the northern states. So look how close it was. During those times, enemies, it's like a DMZ zone, literally. So as we're leaving the Lincoln Memorial, we're gonna head northeast and head that way. We're gonna go check out the Vietnam Memorial. It's a beautiful morning. So we're coming up on the Vietnam Memorial. It's an awesome statue, man. Makes me think of all the young guys and ladies who served over there. It's pretty sombering. All right, as we're coming up here on the Vietnam Memorial, just as a spade would come and disrupt the ground, that's almost like symbolic of how this is, because of all the people that were lost during the Vietnam War. It's just like the gash in the people are gone, so it's a way to memorialize them, I think, in a great kind of powerful way. It doesn't seem that big, but look at the people standing down there. You could tell they're smaller to it. So like we start off really small, like less than an inch, and then you get all the way above your head with all the names of the people who lost their lives. Let's see people leave flowers and pictures for loved ones. Wow. Wow, so many people, man. Like, just look how small the names are and how many. Man, it's definitely quite the experience here. Wow, it just goes on and on, man. Sorry, I'm just being quiet because it's like you have to feel like you definitely have a reverence here, you know? Wow. I tell you what, you know, I've been here before, but every time I come here, you know, it's just like a quiet, very sombering moment when you walk through there, and you almost want to tear up thinking about all the lives that were lost, you know? And no matter your political views or opinions, you know, these people who died for our country, you know, it's very heartwarming, man, and kind of makes you want to tear up for real. And this statue here is about a legacy of healing and hope, and it focuses on the women's emotions and the things that they felt in helping the soldiers, the military people. I mean, you can feel the emotions in their face, man. Look at that. Now, there's a Lincoln Memorial where we were a while ago, and as you can tell, the reflective pool, man, it's definitely beautiful this morning. Now we're coming up on the World War II Memorial. And it's interesting, Tony, I got my tour guide Tony with me here, and why is that divided like that?
Well, on the left,
yeah.
it represents the European theater of action for the United States, and on the right, the Pacific theater.
Oh,
And
okay.
It's actually really difficult to build any monument or memorial on the mall, the National Mall, which stretches from the Lincoln Memorial to the U.S. Capitol building. It actually takes a literal act of Congress. And so
Literally,
about 20 years ago, they completed this memorial, and you'll see wreaths representing peace, but also victory at the time. And you'll see it's almost in an Art Deco / neoclassical style. Architects were upset with it initially.
Really?
Because they thought that it was just too much of a mishmash of architectural styles.
Now, I just walked through the Vietnam Memorial a while ago, and I'm sure there was probably some hesitation about that design initially,
Yeah,
too.
people were unhappy with that one too. It's like anything, if it is there long enough, it becomes iconic. There was a joke an architectural critic in Paris once made. He quipped, "I love going to the Eiffel Tower because it's the only place in Paris I can't see it." And now, of course, it's iconic, and you think of that as a landmark.
Right. Well, plus too, having it divided like that, it doesn't disrupt the view from the monument to the Lincoln Memorial at all.
That's correct. There were all sorts of designs. This one, because it was, you can see the two great symbols, personality-wise, of our freedom, when you think of presidents, and that's George Washington, of course, the Washington Monument,
Right.
and Abraham Lincoln with the Lincoln Memorial. So this is the European theater, and they actually refer to it in the C's. So you'll see the roping here,
Oh yeah.
and you'll see the water here representing the sea. And so they call this the Atlantic side. They don't refer to it as the European, they refer to it as the Atlantic side.
Oh yeah. Now I see where it
the
actually
Pacific.
says it on the tops of those columns. There it actually says Pacific and Atlantic. That's nice.
And then each one of these almost pilasters represent a state.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't find North Carolina a while ago on the Lincoln Memorial, but maybe I'll find it here for sure. And here's South Carolina, the state where I reside now. Well, Virginia, and here's North Carolina, the Tar Heel State, where I was born and raised. So Tony, I've been here like before, but it's like I forgot, and just looking at it from a distance a while ago, you forget how massive this thing is.
Yeah, it's a huge monument. And it's a memorial to those lives lost. Some people complained initially, if you look up at the Eagles, they thought it was a little too militaristic, but
What's to memorialize the war? You would think it would be militaristic, you know?
well, yeah, it was definitely the largest military action in world history, but it actually
Wow.
represented winged freedom, is what the architects intentionally,
Wow.
it's why they designed it eagles, not to be militaristic, but to represent the lives lost and
Ah.
the bravery and heroism of those who sacrificed.
Interesting. Wow. Here's the quote by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. They have given their sons to the military services. They have stoked the furnaces and hurried the factory wheels. They have made the planes and welded the tanks, riveted the ships and rolled the shells.
And it really speaks to the thesis of this memorial. And again, it's not a war monument, it is a war memorial dedicated to those who sacrificed and those who sacrificed their lives at the home front. And that's what this is a reference to, the industrial strength of the United States during the war.
Wow. Was definitely beautiful. All right. As we're looking towards the northeast here, there is the Washington Monument. Now it's called a monument, I noticed, and I noticed the Lincoln Memorial, it's called the Memorial.
Yeah, most of the presidential memorials are just that. They honor the memory of the past presidents who have passed. So Lincoln Memorial, Thomas Jefferson Memorial, Franklin Delano Roosevelt Memorial, but this is the Washington Monument because they began it while he was alive.
That makes sense. Wow. Wow. I noticed over there is the Smithsonian, there's the castle over there, and then there's the Museum of African American History, and then the Natural History Museum. Is that what those are over there? Natural History Museum?
Well, that is one of the federal buildings, and then over here, closer to you, is the Reagan Building, and then down there is the National Archives.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Check out these bronze reliefs here. The detail on them.
And making reliefs in bronze and copper goes back 3,000 years, which is, again, why this is not a purely Art Deco memorial, it's also a classical.
Wow. It's like the combination of styles is really neat. I didn't even notice those at first. I didn't realize they were actually reliefs like that. All right up here at the Washington Monument now, and I notice, after I zoom in, Tony, I see that it's like two different types of material there. Did they run out of stone or something?
Well, you can see the lighter stone at the bottom, toward
Yes.
the bottom third roughly. There was a great disruption in the 1860s that halted development, and they completed it after the war
Really?
with
Okay.
different stone.
Yeah, I wonder why they didn't. I guess they just couldn't have access to the other stone anymore. Or?
All earthenworks and all economic activity and mining activity and refining activity were put toward the war.
Oh, gotcha. Makes sense. Again, I just can't tell you again how beautiful this is in the morning. Man, this feels great. it's a perfect day to be out here. And here's a closer view of the Washington Monument there, and you can see the different discolorations that I was talking about earlier. And then you can zoom over here, you can see the White House.
Fun fact about the White House, which used to be known just as the executive mansion of the president, is that Harry Truman, who became president after FDR died in office in 1945 and served until 1952, he renovated the White House entirely, gutted it. There were holes in the ceilings and in the floors of the rooms above it.
Yeah.
And pianos were actually sinking into the hardwood floors.
Really?
And they had to renovate it entirely. Now, when they did, it was, you're talking about the beginning of the Cold War, so they renovated it with a lot of security features that are currently there, including tunnels and taking older tunnels and renovating them and having evacuations, thinking about you're entering the nuclear age. And but again, just like anything, when it's current, it's controversial. Now we think, well, right, that's reasonable. But back then, it was very controversial that Harry Truman was renovating the White House.
Wow, that's crazy. Interesting.
And it was, for economics, post-war economy, people were wanting to get back to business and not think about
Right.
politics and government anymore.
Huh. Interesting. Tony, now every time I'm over here on the mall area around the reflective pool, you know what it makes me think of?
Forrest Gump.
Well, yep, that too, but I also think of Captain America running in the mornings around.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember which one that was, if that was like Captain America 2 or what.
I think it was Captain America 2, The Winter Soldier.
Might have been, yeah. And that looks like one of the Air Force One helicopters there.
I don't know if you were able to capture that
Yep,
helicopter.
what I said was, I think that's one of the Air Force One copters is
Oh,
what
good.
I said.
Yeah, so the airplane is known as Air Force One whenever the president's on it.
That's Marine One is what I
That's
meant.
Marine
That's
One.
right, yeah. I don't know
Now,
why.
It's only when the president is on it is it known as Marine One. When he
Oh.
disembarks, it's no longer Marine One. It goes by a different call sign. And my understanding is that they always fly in threes. When you see the single one there,
Yes.
the other two have broken off. They're decoys. And that one is going directly to the White House lawn, either to pick him up or to drop him off, the president. And the airplane, when it's Air Force One, will land at Andrews Air Force Base, and then the presidential motorcade will take him to the White House. Marine One takes him directly. So
Right.
there's a very good chance that President of the United States was on board just then,
Huh.
because the other two decoys were gone. The two decoys were gone,
Wow.
and it was the single, and it was headed north to the White House lawn.
Could they do like just test runs though and stuff?
They do, yeah.
Okay.
But there is a good chance that you had a presidential sighting.
Huh. Interesting. I noticed too here they've got the National Park Service. You have some information you can pick up. This right here is by the World War II Memorial. So that's neat to know. I'm sure they got some pamphlets or give you some good information. Plus they have signs all over like this right here that show you where things are, like, saying District of Columbia War Memorial, this way, restrooms. This map here shows you how long this whole mall, the National Mall, is. We only walked from here to here, and that was like a long way, and it still goes that way. I think it's about 3 miles long, if I'm not mistaken. Tony, I've never seen this before, and I think that it does look new, the building, and I'm seeing horses out here.
It is new. You'll see that sign. It announces the grand opening of these stables.
So what is it?
It's the U.S. Park Police. They use horses, and this is where they stable them.
Let's get a closer look. Wow, these are some pretty horses here. And they're playing with, look at that. They're having fun fighting over there. Playing. All right, we're coming up now on the Korean War Veterans Memorial.
Yeah, sadly, this is known as the forgotten war for the United States. All the 37,000 servicemen lost
Whoa,
their lives.
this is all the names, just kind of like the Vietnam Memorial. And it goes all the way around.
And this was actually a United Nations military action, not just a U.S. action. And you'll notice when we get to the statues, and we'll be silent when we go there, but out of respect to the fallen, but the statues have an expression of being lost. And it symbolizes almost the lack of any actual utility for their sacrifice. And it also is sad that the war began at the 38th parallel, roughly, and after years of fighting, ended in almost exactly the same spot where it began, and it is now currently in a stalemate or an armistice, but we don't have an actual official political peace
Really?
with North Korea. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, I don't know if you could tell just by the video the way the expressions were on the faces of those military guys. I tell you what, it just kind of like how I was during the Vietnam Memorial. It was very somber walking through there, and almost kind of got goosebumps and chills walking through there, looking at that, man. I think they really did well on this one. It's kind of like mind-boggling of what these guys must have went through. So what do you think this symbolizes here?
This reflects how they're sort of the ghost-like. They're all more apparitions of people who were in Korea. If you look up here on the right, there's a Korean bell garden showing
I don't know
that
if I
this is.
can see it good in here, but
That's
it is
one of
very
the
ghostly,
beauties
huh?
of this is that this relief is to reflect the lost souls of the dead in the Korean War. So they do look like ghosts, but they are definitely placed in Korea.
Wow. Our nation honors her sons and daughters who answered the call to defend a country they never knew and a people they never met. Freedom is not free. Wow.